I was sitting in my work truck, covered in sweat and copper dust, watching this 22-year-old punk hop out of his brand new Silverado with his dad's company logo on the door. We were up for the same lead tech role. I had 19 years in, he had 6 months and a last name that mattered. Guess who got the job? That was 5 years ago. That day broke something in me. My name's Darren. I'm 39, HVAC lifer out of St. Louis. Married, 2 boys, mortgage, and a spine that sounds like gravel every morning. That lead job was supposed to be my next step. But after getting passed over for some manager's nephew, I knew I wasn't going anywhere without the right papers. I wasn't going to keep getting screwed because I didn't have a stupid business degree. So I made a choice. Nights, weekends, early mornings. I enrolled in a trade school business program. It was supposed to be 2 years, but with full-time work and a family, it took me 5. 5 long years of grinding. Before we start, how's your day going and where are you joining from? I'd wake up at 4:45, hit job sites before sunup, come home dead on my feet, scrub the grime off, and then drag myself to night classes 3 times a week. Saturdays, I'd post up at the kitchen table with a laptop while the boys played Xbox. My youngest, Josh, would peek over and ask what I was typing. "Homework, buddy." He'd nod, like that meant something big. At first, Kendra was proud. She'd leave dinner warm on the stove, help the boys with homework, handle bedtime. She'd rub my back when I passed out on the couch. But by year 2, the tone shifted. She started asking, "How much longer is this supposed to go on?" Her eyes would dart to the kids when she said it. "They barely see you anymore." I'd mumble something about the long game, about it paying off. But one night, Caleb, my oldest, had a friend sleeping over. I was at the table, writing a field analysis, when I heard him through the wall. "My dad's always at school or sleeping." I froze. That sentence hit harder than a wrench to the ribs. I wanted to walk in there, tell him why I was doing this. But I didn't. I just kept typing. I kept going anyway. I told myself the end was coming. I just had to survive the middle. The graduation date was May 18th, and I had it circled in red on the fridge since last Thanksgiving. That circle stared me down every morning when I reached for the coffee creamer. I wasn't going to let anyone treat it like just another Saturday. I told Kendra, told the boys, called my parents out in Arizona and asked them to fly in. Bought 6 plane tickets with my own money, them, my sister Kara and her husband, Kendra and the kids. Booked dinner for after the ceremony at a steakhouse downtown. Big place, white tablecloths, waiters in ties. $280 down just to reserve. Non-refundable. I wasn't doing this halfway. Bought myself a charcoal gray suit, first new one I'd owned since our wedding day. Had the tailor hem it right. Got my hair cut, lined up, shined my old dress shoes till they looked damn near new. Even scrubbed under my nails with a wire brush, like I was going into surgery. Kendra looked me up and down when I stepped out of the bedroom that day. "You clean up good," she said, but her tone was flat. No smile, no hug. Then she went right back to folding towels. My dad was already getting cagey on the phone. "We'll see what we can do, son," he said when I reminded him of the date. "Flights are a pain lately," I said. "I already booked them. You just have to get on the plane." He made a sound like a grunt, then changed the subject. Kara was different. She was pumped, said she'd drive the full 8 hours from Dayton with her husband and their baby. "I wouldn't miss it," she told me. "You busted your ass for this. I'm proud of you." That meant something. Kara's never been one to hand out praise. I could hear the baby cooing in the background while she talked. She said she might stop by Jason's that morning to see the baby cousins before heading to the ceremony. Jason, my younger brother, didn't say much when I told him, just nodded like I'd said something about the weather. He runs his own landscaping business and treats every Saturday like it's church. I still told him the time and place, gave him the address, told him where to park, left the door open. I brushed it off. Told myself people were just busy, that once the day came, they'd show up. The boys didn't say much either. Caleb had a baseball game the weekend before and barely looked up when I reminded him, "Hey, next Saturday's Dad's big walk." "Cool," he said, eyes locked on his tablet. Josh just asked if there'd be dessert at the dinner. I asked Kendra if she could take a photo of me walking the stage. "Of course," she said, "assuming we get decent seats." "Get there early then," I told her. She gave me this look like I was asking for a kidney. I didn't push it. I just added a reminder to her phone when she wasn't looking. By the time that week rolled around, I was running on fumes. But I felt ready. I pictured the boys seeing me up there in that cap and gown, finally understanding why I'd missed so many movie nights and ball games. I imagined the applause, my mom clapping, my dad standing proud. I saw the dinner afterward, us all around a table, drinks raised. That picture kept me going, even when no one else said a word about it. 3 weeks out, I got a call from Jason. Came in while I was wiring a thermostat in some gutted rental on the east side. I almost didn't answer. Should have gone with that instinct. "Hey bro," he said, like we talked all the time. "We're throwing a big crawfish boil that Saturday. Whole crew's coming, even some of Dad's old buddies. You and the boys should swing by." I stood there, frozen with a screwdriver in one hand, wire nuts in the other. "You serious?" "Yeah, man, big spread. We're getting the good stuff flown in. It's gonna be a blast." "That's my graduation day." He paused just for a second. "Oh, damn. Thought that was later in the summer." "Nope, May 18th. Been on the calendar for 6 months." He let out this breathy chuckle, like it was no big thing. "Ah, man, the seafood's already ordered. Invites are out. You know how hard it is to get everyone together." I said, "You can move it. Pick Sunday, or the weekend after." He didn't budge. "It's just a diploma, right? You already run your own cruise, not like it changes anything." I hung up without another word, called my mom straight after, thinking maybe she'd talk some sense into him. She picked up on the second ring, cheerful like always. "Hi, honey, everything okay? Did you know Jason scheduled his crawfish thing on my graduation?" A pause then. "Well, he mentioned the party, yes. But I didn't realize it was the same day." "It is. I told you the date. I bought your ticket." She sighed. "Sweetheart, Jason's party is sort of a reunion too. Your dad's really looking forward to seeing everyone." I stared at the drywall in front of me, like it might explode. "So y'all are picking a backyard party over my graduation?" "Honey, that's not fair. No, what's not fair is me working 5 years for a degree and nobody giving a damn." She got quiet. I ended the call before she could spin it. When I got home that night, I slammed the truck door harder than I meant to. Kendra was in the kitchen unloading groceries. She looked up like she already knew. "I talked to your brother," I said. She nodded. "I figured. He texted earlier, said he hoped you weren't mad." I laughed, dry and sharp. "He throws a party on my graduation and wants to know if I'm mad?" She came over and touched my arm. "It's just your parents who are bailing. Me and the boys. We'll be there." "That's not the point." I pulled away. They'd rather eat shrimp with Jason than watch me walk. She didn't argue, just looked tired, like this was another one of those things I'd eventually swallow down. I thought about every shift I'd worked while sick, every night I showed up to class with bloodshot eyes, every missed bedtime story, every skipped movie night. I thought about that suit hanging in the closet and the empty seats I could already feel. The next morning, I didn't mention it. Got dressed, packed my lunch, kissed the boys' heads. Normal. But inside, I was boiling. Kara called later that afternoon. "Just heard about Jason's party. You okay?" "Nope." "Want me to say something?" "No, just show up, please. I'll be there, no matter what." One person. That's all I needed right then. I wasn't going to cancel dinner. I wasn't going to let them ruin it. But I knew something had changed. The night before the ceremony, the house felt off, like somebody had turned the volume down on everything. Kendra sat on the couch, phone glowing in her hand, thumbs moving fast. The boys were in the corner, faces lit blue from their screens. Not a word between them. Nobody asked about my speech or the lineup time. Nobody even glanced at the suit hanging by the door. I was at the table going over my notes when I heard Caleb's voice drift from the hallway. "Think Uncle Jason's pool will be open tomorrow?" My chest went tight. Tomorrow. My graduation day. I stood up and walked into the room. Caleb froze mid-sentence, eyes wide like he'd been caught stealing. Josh buried his face in his tablet. "What pool?" I asked. "Nothing," Caleb muttered. He turned away. I stared at them for a second, then walked back to the kitchen without another word. My hands were shaking. Later, while Kendra folded laundry in our room, I leaned against the doorway. "You still planning on coming tomorrow?" My voice came out sharper than I meant. She nodded without looking up from the pile of shirts. "Yeah, of course." "You sure?" "Yes." Still folding. Not meeting my eyes. I waited for her to say something else. She didn't. I left the room and shut the door a little too hard behind me. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. The house was quiet except for the faint clicking of phone keys down the hall. I told myself I was overreacting. Told myself they'd be there. Told myself it was nerves. Around midnight, I rolled over and grabbed my phone. No missed calls, no travel updates from my parents, not even a text from Kara saying they were on the road. Just silence. I scrolled through my own reminders, lineup time, dinner reservation, camera setup, and set the phone back on the nightstand. My stomach felt like concrete. When I woke up, the house was dead quiet. No breakfast smells, no running water, no sound of the boys wrestling like usual, just empty air. I got up, still in my t-shirt and boxers, and walked to the kitchen. A single piece of paper sat on the counter, folded once. I opened it with fingers that felt numb. Took the boys to Jason's early to help set up. We'll try to make the ceremony. Congrats, K. That's all it said. No heart, no love you. Just that. My chest tightened so hard it hurt. For a second, I thought I might pass out. I dropped the note on the counter and gripped the edge to steady myself. The coffee maker was cold. I hit the button and sat down at the table, elbows on my knees, staring at the black plastic machine as it gurgled to life. The smell filled the room, but didn't make it warmer. 30 minutes passed, maybe more. I didn't move. I just sat there, staring at that note, listening to the coffee drip and feeling the walls close in. Then, I pushed back from the table so hard the chair legs screeched against the tile. I had to get up, had to move, had to do something. I showed up to the ceremony alone. Just me, a cap and gown in one hand, diploma case tucked under my arm like a lunchbox. My suit was crisp, but I felt like a clown in a costume nobody asked for. The parking lot buzzed with families unloading balloons, folding chairs, screaming toddlers. Folks were already taking selfies in front of the banner at the gate. I kept walking. Inside, it was worse. Rows of chairs filled with parents, spouses, little kids holding signs. Grads hugging siblings. Whole families in matching t-shirts. I found my row. 5 seats marked reserved, all empty. I didn't sit. Just stood there for a while, holding my gown in both hands, trying to keep my jaw from locking. A lady in a headset walked past and asked if I needed help. I shook my head. Finally, I sat and put the gown on, smoothed it out, tried not to look around. The guy next to me was FaceTiming with someone, laughing, showing off the crowd. They started the music. Speakers came up. People clapped in all the right spots. The whole thing was a blur, and not in some magical way. Just fuzzy, numb. Then they called my name. Darren Hayes. I stood up, walked the line, stepped onto the stage. The lights hit my face and I squinted. One hand took the diploma case. The other shook the dean's. Polite applause. Maybe 5 seconds, then done. My name slid off the air like it never mattered. I walked down the steps, back to my empty row, sat down and stared straight ahead. Didn't look at the crowd, didn't need to. Afterward, people spilled into the courtyard out front. Families gathered for pictures, tossing caps, hugging. I stood by a column pretending to check my phone. That way no one would ask who I was waiting for. I must have stood there 20 minutes. Then I sat on a bench and opened my phone for real. First thing that popped up, Jason's Instagram story. Big plastic tables stacked with crawfish trays, beers, lawn chairs in the sun. My sons were in the pool, laughing, splashing each other. Kendra was sitting on the edge, red Solo cup in hand, sunglasses on. My dad was kicked back in a lounge chair, belly out, laughing like he just won the lottery. My mom was holding Jason's kid like he was the second coming. I looked at the timestamp, 2:17 p.m., right as I was walking across the stage. Something inside me just snapped. I walked to the parking lot like I was in a trance, got in my truck, tossed the cap onto the passenger seat like it burned me, and sat there staring at the dashboard. My phone buzzed, I ignored it. Then it buzzed again, and again. I finally looked down. 27 missed calls, all from Kendra. No texts, no voicemail, just call after call after call. I didn't call back, didn't even open the messages. I sat there while my phone buzzed in my lap, like a warning bell I couldn't shut off. Part of me wanted to scream, punch the steering wheel, drive to Jason's and drag my kids out by the ear. But I didn't move. I didn't even blink. Because this wasn't just a bad moment. This was a choice they all made. They chose beer and shellfish and pool floaties over me. I sat there until the lot emptied out, until the sky started to dim, until it felt like the whole day had just folded itself into one sharp corner of pain. Then I started the engine and drove away. Didn't know where I was headed, just knew it wasn't home. Ready when you are. I was halfway to nowhere, still gripping the wheel like it owed me money, when my phone lit up again. This time, it wasn't Kendra. It was Kara. I let it ring once, twice, then answered. "What?" "Darren," she said fast. "Caleb's a county general. He fell at Jason's, busted his wrist." My whole body locked up. "He what?" "He was trying to climb the deck railing or something. Slipped. They already set the bone, but he's scared, and you should get here." I didn't ask any more questions. I spun the truck around and floored it. I was still in my graduation suit, tie loosened, jacket wrinkled, diploma case sitting unopened on the dash like a joke. My tires squealed pulling into the hospital lot. I walked in through the ER entrance, straight past the check-in desk. A nurse looked up and I said, "My son's here, Caleb Hayes, broken wrist." She pointed down the hall. "Room 7. I didn't knock. I pushed the door open, and there they all were. Kendra, my mom, my dad, Jason, even Kara holding her baby in the corner, all gathered around Caleb's bed like it was a family reunion. Caleb looked up first. His eyes got big. "Hey, Dad, I'm sorry." I walked to his side, looked at the cast forming around his arm, still half wrapped in gauze. His face was pale, cheeks streaked from crying. Before I could say a word, a nurse stepped in behind me. "Hi, Dad. We're just going to get this cast finished up. He'll be in a sling for about 6 weeks, and we've got pain meds ready." I nodded, not really hearing her. I looked at Kendra. She started to say something, but I held up a hand. "Not now." My mom said, "Thank God you got here." That did it. "Where do you think I was?" My voice was low, but it cut through the room like a blade. "I was walking across a stage, getting my diploma, while all of you were eating sausage and shrimp." Silence. Kendra looked down at the floor. Jason scratched the back of his neck and muttered, "Didn't think it was that big a deal." I turned to him, and something inside me snapped again. But quieter this time. Colder. "That's the problem. None of you did." Nobody looked at me, not even the nurse. I stepped back from the bed and leaned against the wall, arms crossed, trying to stop my hands from shaking. Caleb kept glancing at me, his eyes wide like he was waiting for me to yell. I didn't. "You okay, bud?" I asked finally. He nodded. "Hurts, but yeah." The nurse wrapped his wrist, started talking about follow-ups, but I barely heard her. My dad patted Caleb's leg and said something like, "Tough kid." My mom offered to drive back with them. Kendra stayed quiet. The whole room was heavy with guilt, but not enough for any of them to say the thing that needed saying. I looked at the diploma case still under my arm, smudged now, bent at one corner. No one asked to see it. When we got home from the hospital, I didn't unpack, didn't take off the suit, just dropped my keys on the counter and went straight to the bedroom. Kendra followed me in, arms crossed. "We should talk," she said. I didn't look at her. "I'm heading to Sam's cabin for a few days." She stepped forward. "What? Darren, come on." "No," I said, turning to face her. "You chose a party over showing your sons what hard work looks like." Her mouth opened, but I kept going. "I needed you there, not after, not maybe, there." She didn't argue again, just stood there, blinking like she wasn't sure whether to cry or shout. I grabbed a duffel bag, tossed in some clothes, my toolbox, a bottle of bourbon from the cabinet, and walked out. Told Caleb and Josh on the way through. "I'm not mad at you two," I said, "but I need space, grown-up space. You understand?" Caleb nodded. Josh looked scared, but I gave him a hug. "It's not your fault. I just need a break." I drove 2 hours to the cabin, windows down, music off. It was deep in the woods, no signal, no noise, just trees and wind and silence. First thing I did was take off that suit and hang it over a chair. It still smelled like cologne and disappointment. I cracked the bourbon, took a long pull, then stepped out onto the porch and sat in a plastic chair that hadn't moved since last hunting season. It felt good to be somewhere nobody could reach me. No buzzing phone, no explanations, no pretending. The first day, I just sat, watched the sun crawl over the treetops, Listen to the squirrels tearing through the branches like they were in a race. Let the quiet pull everything out of me. By day 2, I started thinking. Not brooding, real thinking. About Kendra, the boys, my role in all of it. How I'd busted my back trying to set an example, and somewhere along the line, they stopped seeing it. Or maybe never saw it to begin with. I thought about how easy it was for all of them to skip my moment. How normal that was to them. Then Sam showed up. Old buddy from the field, good guy, rough hands, soft heart. He pulled up in his beat-up F-150 with a cooler and a six-pack. "Hope you ain't gone full mountain man yet," he said, stepping out with a grin. "Not yet," I said, but I was close. He handed me a ribeye. "Brought meat. You cook." We grilled on the fire pit out back, passed the bottle, talked shop for a while. Then he looked over and said, "Watch the live stream, by the way. Hell of a walk, man. Sorry they missed it." That hit harder than it should have. One guy, just one, took the time. I didn't say anything for a while, just stared at the flames and let the smoke sting my eyes. I realized then I couldn't go back to how it was. I wouldn't. Something had to shift. I came home 4 days later, didn't text ahead, just pulled into the driveway, walked through the door, and dropped my bag by the stairs. The boys were at the table eating cereal for dinner. Kendra was wiping down the counters like it was any other Thursday. She turned, froze for half a second. "Hey," she said quiet. "Sit," I told her, nodding toward the kitchen table. She looked nervous but didn't argue. I sat across from her, arms crossed, still in the flannel I'd slept in the night before. "I'm not your backup babysitter," I said. "I'm your husband, and I need to be respected like it." Her face crumpled before I even finished. She blinked fast, trying to keep it together. I was overwhelmed with work, the boys, everything. I messed up. I know that. "You didn't think I'd take it that hard," I said flat. "I didn't," she admitted, voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't think it was a big deal. Not like that." I leaned forward. "You didn't have to think. You just had to show up," she nodded. "You're right. I could have said more. Could have unloaded all of it. But I didn't want to fight. I wanted change. So we made a plan. She agreed to cut back her part-time hours, start picking up more of the load at home. The boys would help too, take out the trash, do their own laundry, clean up after themselves. Not just because I said so, but because I wasn't going to keep pushing this family forward by myself. She asked, "Can we fix this?" I said, "We're not fixing anything if it all just goes back to normal." She reached across the table and grabbed my hand. I didn't pull away, but I didn't squeeze back either. Later that night, I called my dad, put it on speaker so I couldn't soften my tone. "We're not doing the favoritism game anymore," I said the second he picked up. He paused. "What's this about? You want to support Jason? Fine. Throw all the parties you want. But don't expect me to keep showing up if I'm always last place." He was quiet for a second. Then, "I didn't realize that's how it felt." I shook my head even though he couldn't see it. "That's the problem. You didn't realize, because it's always been that way." "I never meant to." "Doesn't matter what you meant, Dad. I'm not doing it anymore." He mumbled something about talking soon. I ended the call without saying goodbye. Afterward, I stood in the garage and looked at my dusty old workbench. My suit jacket was still draped over a chair from the day of the ceremony. I picked it up, brushed it off, and hung it in the closet where it belonged. 2 weeks later, I pulled into the shop yard like any normal Friday. Heat rising off the asphalt, compressor units stacked by the bay door, the usual diesel stink in the air. I had no clue what was waiting inside. Soon as I walked into the break room, the lights popped on and everyone yelled, "Surprise!" Took me a second to process. Table full of barbecue, coolers packed with beer, streamers duct taped to the rafters. Somebody even rigged up a paper sign across the wall that said, "Congrats, grad," with duct tape and marker. Randy, our dispatcher, shoved a plate in my hand. "Sit down, man. You earned it." There was a card on the table. Every single guy in the field signed it, even some of the office staff I barely knew. The note inside from my boss read, "Only man I know who can wire a rooftop unit and write a business plan in the same day." I laughed out loud. Not out of politeness, for real. I finally felt seen. Half an hour in, the front door creaked open. I looked up. Kendra and the boys walked in. Late, but they came. Caleb was holding something behind his back. He walked straight up, face red like he was embarrassed. "Made you something," he said, pulling out a folded piece of cardstock. "Congrats, Dad," was written in thick, crooked letters with stars around it. Inside, he'd drawn a stick figure in a cap and gown, holding a diploma next to a big AC unit with 1 Tech above it. My throat got tight. "Thanks, bud," I said, voice low. "Means a lot." I tucked it into my jacket pocket. That card would end up on the wall of my new office a month later when I stepped into the operations supervisor role. That office didn't have windows, but it had my name on the door. And for the first time in a long time, that was enough. Later that week, Jason called me. First time we'd spoken since the hospital. "Didn't mean to overshadow your day," he said. "Didn't think it'd blow up like that." I kept my voice steady. "It wasn't about one day, Jace. It's about a lifetime of it." He didn't argue. We're polite now. Civil. We talk when we have to. No bad blood, but no more illusions either. Same with my parents. They call sometimes. We keep it surface level. I don't chase their attention anymore. Truth is, I've learned the difference. Some folks show up because they care. Others only show up when it's easy. About a month later, my old man called and asked if I was free for lunch. I said sure. No point dodging it anymore. We met at a diner halfway between our places. One of those old joints with sticky booths and chipped coffee cups. He was already sitting when I walked in, stirring his iced tea with a straw like he didn't know what to do with his hands. We ordered sandwiches, made some small talk about work, the Cardinals, gas prices. Then he went quiet, set his drink down, looked me dead in the eye. "I was wrong," he said. "Should have been there." I didn't say anything right away, just sip my coffee, let the silence do the work. Then I said, "Yeah, you should have." He nodded. "Your brother throws a good party, but that day wasn't about him. You earned that walk." I leaned back, arms crossed. It wasn't about a seat in the crowd. It was about choosing to be in the damn room when it mattered. He looked down, fiddled with the corner of his napkin. "Don't know if I can fix that." I shrugged. "Don't need to fix it. Just don't repeat it." That was it. We finished our sandwiches in silence. No long speeches, no hugs. We paid at the counter and walked out to the lot. He stuck out his hand. I shook it. It wasn't a movie moment, but it was something. Back home, I went into the garage, cleared off the shelf above my workbench, hung my diploma right next to my welding cert, and the old union photo from my first job. Took me a few tries to get it level. The glass still had a thumbprint on the corner, but I left it. Couple nights later, the boys were poking around while I changed the oil on the truck. Caleb looked up, pointed to the frame. "That's from when we missed your graduation, huh?" I tightened the filter. "Yeah," I said. "But it's still mine." He nodded. "It looks cool." I smiled, just a little. "Thanks." They didn't ask more. Just went back to tossing a football in the yard while I packed up my tools. I'm not bitter anymore, but I'll never beg to be seen again.